get started. Welcome to our Setting the Trends Straight class. Today's focus is all about air fryers. My name is Brittany, and I'm one of your Stop and Shop Nutrition Partners registered dietitians. Before diving in and sharing some recipes and tips and tricks that I'll share today, I just want to give a brief overview of what an air fryer is and how it might be used. Air fryers are basically mini convection ovens. The heat comes from the top of the appliance and it's really concentrated. So that's what helps cook food very quickly and efficiently, and also gets that nice crispness that we're going for. So one of the positives about having an air fryer and cooking with one is that you can make some better for you fried items rather than relying on deep frying. So I'll highlight some of those better for you options with a few recipes today, starting out by making some crispy green beans. Air fryers can be fun to play around with different recipes and can be motivational to try vegetables in a few different ways. So maybe if you're having some goals to get some more vegetables on your plate, or maybe have some picky eaters at home, this can be one way to experiment a little bit and have some fun with it as well. So with these crispy green beans, the idea behind this is sort of like an alternative to fries. No, that doesn't mean never have any French fries or that it's going to really hit the mark if you're truly craving French fries, but it can be a better for you option to turn to if you're looking to mix it up a little bit and again, incorporate some more vegetables throughout your days. This is super simple to put together. Before class today, I simply dipped some green beans in some flour, a little bit of an egg, and then some breadcrumbs so that it gets nice and coated. And now I'm just going to pop it right in the air fryer. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on and set it to a temperature of 390 degrees and set it for about 3 minutes. So let me just pop these guys in here and then I'll walk through a little bit more behind the air fryers here. I'm just going to put them right in the basket here and make sure they're nice and evenly spread throughout. And then I'm going to set my timer here. You may notice that throughout class, I might shake this a little bit. That's one quick tip that you can use when you're doing your air frying, is to shake it to make sure you get nice, even cooking. And then I will simply hit start. All right, so while those get underway, some tips to keep in mind. I mentioned shaking that to ensure that nice, even cooking. One other step I did before class today is put a little bit of oil over the plate of the basket. Most air fryers have a non-stick surface. And while you are, one benefit is that you don't need to use as much oil as you might for deep frying. You do still need a little bit of oil to help coat the surface, to help avoid any sticking, and also get that nice brownness that comes along with making a nice crispy food. I like to use a pastry brush and simply have a little bit of a bowl of oil and brush it along the grates of the plate that's inside the air fryer basket. A lot of recipes will show to use, a cooking spray, but you do want to avoid using aerosol sprays on the nonstick surface. And this is actually true for any nonstick appliance that you may have. Over time, that can degrade the surface and kind of lengthen the amount of time that you might be able to use the appliance. Plus, if you already have oil on hand for other cooking needs, then you don't need to go pick up anything new, and that pastry brush can come in handy with making sure it's nice and evenly coated there. Now, in addition to shaking the basket a little bit to ensure that even cooking, you also want to be sure not to overcrowd the basket. You want to make sure that all that hot air from this appliance is getting through the foods and cooking them evenly. And that's what also helps ensure that nice crispness. If you overcrowd the basket, it can create a little bit more of like a steaming effect, something similar to if you were to be roasting vegetables and maybe overcrowd the pan or the baking dish that you have on there. You might notice that they come out a little bit more soggy than you were intending. And that's because it does create that little bit of a steamed environment, and the moisture there just doesn't allow for that nice crispness. So don't overcrowd that basket, shake it around to ensure that even cooking about halfway through for most recipes that you might be experimenting with. Now, this recipe in particular is really straightforward. It's nice because it can use some pantry staples. As I mentioned, dipped in a little bit of flour, some breadcrumbs, egg wash, and we were good to go. I also picked up some pre-washed and trimmed green beans for this recipe. One less step that you need to do, making it that much faster to get some vegetables onto your table quickly. These are nice to have on hand. They do go on sale quite regularly, so keep your eye out on the circular for them. Be nice to have on hand, even if you're not air frying. A really quick way to get some veggies onto your plates. As I mentioned, the crispy green beans can be a nice alternative to having a side instead of things like French fries. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a little bit of a shake. Oops, they're already starting to get nice and brown in here. Pop it in just for another minute or two. All right. For some reason, mine auto sets back up to 20 minutes each time. I'm sure there's a way I can fix that, but have I figured that out yet? No. All right, we're good to go. So as I said, these can be a great alternative to French fries. You know, the green beans can add some nice fiber to your plate, good vitamin C. Outside of green beans, other vegetables that you can use to make a similar recipe would be things like butternut squash, carrots, parsnips. As we look forward to springtime, you'll see more asparagus popping up, and those can make really nice fries as well. So again, you can have a little bit more fun, play with them. I mentioned maybe some have picky eaters at home. When it comes to vegetables, if you're able to cook them in a different way, that might encourage somebody to dive in and try that broccoli that they weren't going for when it was steamed or roasted. Also serving them with things like dips. These fries are great with things like marinara sauce, and just like a Greek yogurt dip can be really nice and a fun way to get kids engaged. These recipes are also straightforward, so it can be good for little ones to get involved in the recipe itself. Maybe they help prep the green beans, roll them in the breadcrumbs ahead of time, and even pop them right in the air fryer as well. So just some things to keep in mind. If anybody has an air fryer at home already and has any go-to favorites that they like to use, please throw them in the chat. I'll keep my eye out over here. I would love to share those out. There's so many different directions you can take with air fryers, and while they're not a new appliance on the market, they certainly have been growing in popularity over the years, and that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So you're able to find a wide range of recipes out there to have some fun and play around with. So with that, I'll actually share a little bit more about kind of just air fryer 101. There are a few different types of air fryers that you can see and purchase on the market. One would be a more multifunctional air fryer. Those are typically shaped like toaster ovens, and they can do everything from toast to baking, broiling, and they can cook a little bit larger quantities of food. Another option would be the more traditional air fryer type, which is basket style, like the one I have here. The baskets might come in different sizes, and at this point, there are even some that have 2 baskets, which allow for cooking even more foods and more side dishes that you can have ready to go. Some positives and considerations if you're wondering, why does everyone you seem to know have an air fryer, and should you be getting one for your kitchen? Again, they are fun. They are very easy, very little or no preheat time, which can be nice as we're getting closer to this warmer weather that you don't need to worry about when you're in the kitchen on those hot days, and you can get a meal on the table quickly. As mentioned, there also can be a better for you alternative to making some fried foods so that you're not relying on deep frying for that. That said, if you already have a toaster and don't need something multifunctional and would be looking for something like the basket, you do need to find space on the counter or in your cabinets when you're going to be pulling it out to make sure that you can have this ready for you. So if space restraints are a concern, you might want to evaluate whether or not this is the best time for an air fryer. Another thing to consider is that although you can make these better for you recipes, like these crispy green beans, which I'm going to pull up and show you, consider what you might be cooking regularly in the air fryer. So if you find you'd most often be looking for heavily breaded items or things like mozzarella sticks and adding those into your weeks more frequently, maybe you aren't choosing those always better for you options. But if you are looking for ways to mix up how your veggies are prepared, maybe cooking lean proteins quickly, this might be something to consider there as well. So point there, not all recipes or foods coming out of the air fryer are inherently healthy just because we're not deep frying them. You want to consider overall what you'd be cooking in them as well. All right, so now that these guys are done, I'm going to try to get you a nice close up here. So you can see they've got nice and crispy, nice brownness. The breadcrumbs really do stick pretty nicely and makes a nice little side dish for you. All right, now that those are done, and I gave you a little bit of an overview of Air Fryer 101, keep that in mind as we go through class. If there's other questions you have in terms of what they're used for, maybe again, if others in class already have an air fryer, what you like to use them for, love to share that out with everybody. And now I'm gonna switch gears a little bit and show you that you can also make some better for you desserts with the air fryer. So while maybe getting everybody on board with trying some nice fry alternatives might take a little bit convincing on the vegetables, I don't think it'll take too much convincing to try a nice dessert. So here I have prepared what will be a better for you banana split. I simply put a slit down the long side of the banana, put a little peanut butter on each side, and plopped in a few dark chocolate chips. So I'm going to put this in our air fryer now. No extra prep needed here, and set the timer. And what will happen is this will make a nice caramelization of the banana, and the peanut butter and the dark chocolate chips will melt a bit and get nice and ooey gooey, just what you want in a dessert. So go ahead and get that started. As that cooks, as I said, desserts might be pretty easy to convince some family members to have fun and try out. But air fryers can also be a nice way to try some new foods, or again, foods prepared in a different way. So one thing I did ahead of class was made some crispy tofu. I just want to hold this up quickly so you can see, and I'll even just shake it around a little bit. If anybody has tried tofu before, or even just seen it, it's usually a lot softer than this. It definitely has a reputation of being mushy and maybe not something that somebody is super excited to try from the start. Air frying can be one way to really improve that texture and get some great flavors, some fun combinations to make tofu a little bit more enticing to try. Just to take a step back, tofu is a plant-based protein, and it gets that mushy reputation in part because it is packaged in water. So when you pick up this block of tofu at the store and open it up, you'll notice that it's sitting in a pool of water. That's to help maintain the freshness. There are a few steps to help kind of get rid of some of that mushiness that's naturally in tofu. Before even air frying it, I wrapped the block of tofu in some paper towels. You could also use a dish towel, and then set it on a plate and put a weighted object on top. So I just used a cutting board that I had in the kitchen and let it sit for about 15 minutes. That helps drain out some of the water from the block of tofu. That'll help kind of improve the texture that you'd be going for as you cook the tofu. So this could be a method to consider, whether you're air frying tofu, baking it, or grilling it, stir frying it. A good tip to keep in mind just to help improve that texture of it a little bit. Once I had some of that water out, I thinly sliced up the tofu and tossed it in cornstarch. And after that, just popped it into the air fryer for about 13 minutes. This is a great way to cook tofu in general, and not only to get a much better texture that I think more people will enjoy than how it comes naturally, but it also can be a nice, more energy efficient way to cook tofu. It doesn't take up too much space, so rather than heating up the whole oven to go through and bake some tofu, the air fryer can be a nice alternative. And if you joined us last week for our Going Green class, you may have learned that the air fryer can be a more energy efficient way to cook food, especially when you are preparing smaller quantities of food. So something to keep in mind there. Now, outside of getting that nice crispness of tofu, tofu itself doesn't have much of a flavor. So it's a really great canvas for adding in any spices, herbs, marinades, or dressings that you're using. So this could be, again, using nice protein to top a grain bowl, a salad, make a nice sandwich filling. I was actually having lunch with a colleague yesterday who is full of plant-based ideas, and she was having a buffalo tofu sandwich. So having some nice crispy air fried tofu and putting a little bit of buffalo sauce on for a sandwich could be a great alternative if you're looking to try some more plant-based recipes. If you are going more plant-based, it is fun to kind of experiment with some flavors that you might already like, and that could be one way to do so. So thought of this class when I saw her eating that lunch yesterday. I'm going to pop this open and see how this banana is doing here. Oh yeah, you can already smell the chocolate a little bit. Okay. I'm going to pull this out here with the tongs. Do be careful as you work with your air fryer that the base does get quite hot as you're cooking with it. So tongs can be helpful to take out any ingredients you have. All right, so to finish this off a little bit, I'm going to add some Greek yogurt here. Plop that right on. I think I went a little overboard, and sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon. You could also do something like cocoa powder for a little bit more of that chocolatey flavor. Okay. I'm going to try to scoop some out here so you can see it all blended together so nicely. This is a really unique way to serve a dessert, something a little bit more fun. And as we come into summertime, an easy way to have dessert without heating up the kitchen. And you're getting a little bit of nutrition in with your dessert as well, with having some fruit mixed in here, the Greek yogurt for a little bit of protein, and definitely a dessert I think many people could get on board with here. I think any other tips, I'm going to open the chat and see if anybody has shared their tips along the way. If you have any questions, put them in the chat as well. I would love to open them now. Okay, great question here on whether we can cook this recipe or other with frozen vegetables in the air fryer. So you should be able to do frozen vegetables in the air fryer. Definitely a quick way to get them on the table. You might need to just adjust the cooking time a little bit. It might be a little bit longer just due to the water content that's in there. So something to keep an eye on. Great question. And again, for anybody who joined late, I do just have my phone down here to answer some of the questions. All right, another participant said, I'm not a banana person. Could this be done with a cored apple or some other type of fruit? Yes. This is another great way just to, I know I've highlighted the vegetables and getting those onto your plate quickly with our fries here, but a great way to cook fruit as well. Another trend that's been out there recently is, Hasselback potatoes. Seems like recipes are trying to Hasselback everything. So we actually have a recipe, and in case I didn't mention, I will send out all of the recipes and a few more for inspiration after class today for a Hasselback apple that can be used in the air fryer. So that's where you would, again, be making some thin slits along the apple, bake it in the air fryer, top it maybe with a little bit of cinnamon, go back to that Greek yogurt, maybe ice cream instead next time, and have a nice dessert ready to go as well. I think what's great about that as well, like that makes me think of fall time and flavors and Thanksgiving. And while maybe you might not need a whole apple pie for your family and can have individual ones instead, that could be a great way to have dessert for everybody without feeling like you are overdoing it and have a little bit more control on the nutrition as well. Great question. Check any other questions here. All right, I think that's all the questions so far. Oops, I think I have a Q&A up here. I heard that cake can cook in the air fryer or a soup. How? That's a very good question. The soup one, I do not have an answer to right away. The cake, again, would be kind of similar to other recipes where it is just relying on that convection heat to cook it. I can look around. I don't have any specific recipes that come to mind that would really help explain how that can be done well and any substitutions that you might need to make, but I could certainly take a look after class today and see if I can get a better answer for you there. With soups, again, it may depend on the air fryer type and setting that you have. Those that I mentioned that are more toasters and have those different functions have a little bit more room than the basket style type. So they might have a few more functions and something that can handle something that would have a soup. I'd imagine that it wouldn't be quite that batch cooking that you can do with soup when you're cooking it on the stove, But if you're looking to cook for 1 or 2, recipes like that might be good to consider. So let me jot that down and take a look back after class today. And if anybody has used it yourself for a cake or soup or something unique, please let us know. Seeing if any other questions came through here. Okay, no other questions yet. Again, I'll try to keep my eye out. And as mentioned, I will send out the recipes that I made today so that you have them ready, and a few more just for inspiration. Everything from crispy Brussels sprouts does continue to be trending on restaurant menus, so why not try to make them for yourself at home? You can even make things like beet chips or crispy chickpeas for a snack. So I'll be sure that you have those available for any inspiration, whether you have an air fryer now and are looking for some of those better for you options, or might be adding one to your kitchen to have a little bit fun experimenting in the kitchen for the weeks to come. All right, one final look here for any questions. And if you do have questions after the class, once I send that email, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd be happy to answer them then. Okay, I think that looks like all of the questions for today. Thank you everybody for your participation. Some great questions. Again, hopefully this leaves you with a little bit of inspiration just about lunchtime, maybe left you a little bit hungry as well. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. And if you're joining us next week, our dietitian Emily will be back sharing a close up on functional foods and answering some frequently asked questions, as you may see those out in the headlines recently. So look forward to having you come back and join us then. All right, thank you everybody.